Hello class, today we are going to chapter 8 lesson 3 and we're going to talk about representing linear functions, meaning functions that if we graph them will make a line. Linear means line, talked about functions yesterday, meaning we have an x and a y value. X is our independent variable, you get to pick those, y is what you get out of the function. We can graph those points, so x, y coordinate points, and they will make a line. So we'll see what that looks like here in a second. So let's write down what a linear equation is. Pretty simple. You're not supposed to define the word with words in it, but it's an equation whose graph is a line. So a linear equation is an equation that would make a line. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to take these functions and we are going to find 4 solutions to them. And guess what? You get to pick those 4 numbers that you want to use. Typically, you choose 0 for one of your numbers. As you see over here, they pick 0. You pick one negative number, one positive number, and then the 4th one can be anything you want. Usually you pick them close together, but it doesn't have to be. So, here's how it works. Just like yesterday, we want to know when x is -1, what would my output be? What's going to come out of this function? Well, I plug in -1 right there. 7 times -1 is -7, so y equals -7. So, x is -1, y is -7. There's a point, okay? And I can graph that point, -1, -7. When I plug in 0, 7 times 0 is 0, so y is 0. So my other point is 0, 0. So this line is gonna, or the next dot's gonna be at the origin, 0, 0. When I pick 1 for my point, I do 7 times 1, which is 7, so 1, 7. So you notice the number you pick for x is always first. The number that comes out is always second, just like we normally do. And then the 4th point, you can pick whatever. I just picked 2 because it goes in order. 7 times 2 is 14. So 2, 14. So those are the 4 solutions. And that's really all there really is to it. Just like yesterday where we evaluated these functions or found the function of 5 or f of 6 or f of -18, whatever it is. We're just finding what is our output. Okay, so the guide to practice down here, there's 4 good examples there. You get to pick 4 solutions. If you plug in 0, what comes out? When you plug in 8, what comes out? You get to pick those. Alright? And they're all going to make a pattern that goes in line. So these dots are going to go, just for a lack of space here, boom, 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 in a line. Or they might go down really sharply. That is determined by what comes out. Okay, so they're going to make a line. All these points are going to make a line. Alright? What happens if you have an equation where it doesn't say like y equals or f of x equals, like function notation? Well, we know our equation rules, how to solve an equation. We can get y all by itself. So a game costs $8, so it's $8 per game. Plus you got to pay $20 for, we buy them $20. So rewrite the equation by solving for y. So this is my equation. What could I do to this equation to get y by itself? Because once y is by itself, I can just pick my 4 points. Okay? So what I'm going to do, and what everyone should do, is if I want to get y by itself, what's happening to y? Well, I'm adding 8x, so I have to undo that, or do the inverse of add 8x. So I need to subtract 8x to both sides of my equal sign. I'm going to subtract 8x here. Can I combine 20 minus 8x? Can I put those together? No. This does not have an x with it. So I cannot combine them. I have to leave them separate. 8x minus 8x, that cancels out. That's gone. So I'm left with y all by itself over here. And on the other side, I have 20 minus 8x. Just like that. Now y is by itself. Now you do what we did in the first slide, and we just pick 4 values to plug in for y. What these values represent are, how many games we're going to download. Okay. So now they picked 4 values for us already, so let's just do those. Alright. These are the 4 numbers they picked. 1, 2, 1/4, and 5. Like I said, you can pick 0. You usually don't pick fractions, but we can do that. It's good practice, so let's just do it. First one, 1. Let's plug in 1 into this equation for x. So it's going to say 20 minus 8 times 1. Well, 8 times 1 is 8. 20 minus 8 is 12. So my first point is 1, 12. If I plug in 2, 8 times 2 is 16. 20 minus 16 is 4. What is 1/4 of 8? Good question. 1/4 of 8 is 2. 20 minus 2 is 18. And last one is 5. 8 times 5 is 40. 20 minus 40 is negative 20. So down here, what do these answers mean? Well, like I said, we don't usually pick fractions, and I'll explain why down here. Okay, she buys one game, and she'll get 12 ringtones. That's how much she can get for $20. She buys 2 games, she can get 4 ringtones. This one does not make sense because you can't get a quarter of a game. All right. And this one does not make sense because you can't have negative ringtones. You can't pay back ringtones when you buy them on a phone. So these two don't really make sense. These two make sense as long as they're both positive. These answers are correct, but for a real situation like this with games and ringtones, they don't make sense. All right. Now this 1/4 does not make sense because this is considered discrete data. Okay, meaning we can't have fractions or decimals. We can't buy a fraction of a game. Can't buy a fraction of a ringtone. So these are considered discrete data. All right, there's spaces in between. They're whole numbers. There's numbers in between there that we don't use or don't work. Okay, continuous data. We can have decimals. We can have fractions. All right, it's like the size of a fish. We can have a decimal, etc., etc. 4.3 pounds. Okay. Now, let's talk about one other rule here, or another way to graph linear equations. That's called the x-intercept and the y-intercept. Okay? The x-intercept is where our line would hit the x-axis, where it intersects the x-axis. The y-intercept is where it hits the y-axis. These are two valuable points because this point right here is the coordinate 2, 0. And this coordinate up here, where it says y-intercept is 3, is 0, 3. So they're special because the coordinate that goes with them is 0. Which makes it really nice for us because you only really need 2 points to graph a line, but we usually choose 3 or 4 to make sure we did it accurately. It's called the intercept method here. If we know the x-intercept and the y-intercept, we can just graph those 2 points and we'll just connect the dots and make a line. Make sure when we make our lines, we put arrows on both ends because they go on forever. It can go off to negative infinity and positive infinity. Alright, so let's look at where this would be useful for. For example, this problem. There's 2 ways to do this problem. Alright, one way is the old way where I get y by itself. Let's talk about what I do to do that. How would I get rid of this negative 2x to get y by itself? Well, I would do a positive or add 2x to both sides. So it would look like y equals 4 plus 2x. And then I can pick 4 points, get my 4 answers, and graph those 4 points in a line. Okay, so I go like boom, 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 and draw the line. This way is called the intercept method. It means you find the x-intercept, you find the y-intercept, and then you connect the points. So remember, going back here quickly, my x-intercept is the point when y is 0. So if I want to find my x-intercept, I let y equal 0. So basically this is gone. So it says negative 2 times what number is 4? Well, negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. So my x-intercept is negative 2, which means it's the point negative 2, 0. My y-intercept is when x is 0. When x is 0, well, this part's gone because it's 0 now. So it says y equals 4. Hey, there's my answer right there. Y is 4. So now I just got to graph negative 2, 0, which is right there. 0, 4 is right there, and I would just make my line, a little curve. Don't curve like I did, using a mouse, and then make sure to put arrows on both ends. Okay. If you did this method where you got y by itself, you'd have to make a little chart here. Your x and your y. Pick 4 numbers like negative 2, maybe negative 1, 0, and 1. And you have to plug them all in and get those 4 numbers. They'll still make this exact same line. You just have to make a chart to do that method. So if y is by itself already, you'll use this chart method. If x and y are on the same side, you can use the chart, or you can use this intercept method, unless it tells you which one you have to use, and you have to follow those guidelines. Alright, so just a quick glance here. Okay, this one right here, I would use the chart method because y is by itself. This one I would use the intercept method. Alright, so I'll leave those up there for you to practice. That's all I have for today. Have a good day in pre-algebra.